Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'll be talking about how student loans work. I'll give you a step-by-step process for how everything works and also answer some of your most popular questions about can the loan company sponsor some of your family members if you're going to school with them, or even questions around like how do you even get the cash. So in today's video I'll explain everything and answer all your questions, so make sure you stick around so you get everything you need from this video. Let's get started. So guys, today I'll explain the student loan process in 3 phases. So the first phase is the application process, the second phase is disbursement, and the third is repayment. So application, disbursement, and repayment. So I'll be explaining what are the things or activities that happen within each phase, and at the end I'll also answer some of your most popular questions, because you guys know at this point I've done a lot of loan videos and you guys always come back with a lot of questions. So I'll answer some of those questions at the end of this video, but I'll first explain the 3 phases that are involved in the entire loan application process, or in the entire student loan process. So let's get started with it. This video is loaded. So guys, phase 1 is the application, and what happens here, this is the phase where first you start your application. So you go to whatever loan company or loan provider you're interested in. I've mentioned a ton of options on this channel. I'll link some of those options in the description box, but what you do is you just go on their website, and a lot of them you can apply online. So you go to their website and you start an application. Basically you register, like create a profile, normal stuff. So that's the very first step in stage 1 in the application phase. And then what happens after you submit? So you create a profile, you submit your application. Of course they will ask you a lot of questions about you, your past, your degree, what the program you're going into, and all of that. And then they'll ask you to upload some documentation. Maybe that's your admission letter, maybe that's your funding letter, maybe your passport. They'll ask you for some documents to upload as part of the application process. So you upload all those and then you submit. So once you click submit, like you are submitting your loan application, of course that's also where you state how much loan you need, and the total cost of attendance, just for those questions, and then you submit. Once you submit, it's no longer in your hands. So once you submit, the loan company or loan provider now does a review. So they review everything you've said in your loan application. They review the documents you've sent to them or you've uploaded as part of that process. And then at the end of their review, they're going to get back to you with a decision. And that decision could be a rejection or an offer, right? So if it's a rejection, sadly, that's where the process ends, but you can always try again. I've explained how you can do that in a recent video. I'll also link that. But the point is, they get back to you and say, hey, Doing would like to, we cannot offer you this loan. Basically, they decline your application and that ends there. Or they come back and they're like, hey, Doing would like to make you an offer of $40,000 as a loan towards your school, towards your degree. And so that decision point is kind of like the end of phase 1. Basically, the first thing is you create your profile, answer all the questions, like fill whatever forms online, you submit your documentation, and then you submit the entire application. They review and then they get back to you, right? So that is a major part, and that's if they get back to you making an offer, then you go on to phase 2. But before we leave this phase, if you're interested in Prodigy, that's one of the loan options I've mentioned on this channel. They are the biggest for international students, really. So if you need student loans and you don't have a co-signer, you can go on Prodigy's site and just apply for a loan there. So I have their link in the description box, and that link takes you directly to where you would apply for a loan. Note that Prodigy doesn't need a cosigner. I feel like I've said this so many times and people still ask me in the comments. You don't need a cosigner for Prodigy as an international student. So definitely try out Prodigy, and the link in the description will take you straight to where you need to apply on their website. So make sure you do that. One more thing is, so if you're fine with the terms they give you, whatever loan company you know that's gotten back to you and says we want to make you an offer, if you're fine with that process, you know, they will give you a sponsorship letter. So the way that works is, after they've sent you the offer, basically they'll say, hey, we've approved your loan application, and they'll send you some documentation. If you are fine with the terms, and when I say terms, there you'd have what interest rate you are taking, what the interest rate is, you know how much it is they're lending to you, you know the terms of repayment. There's just so many things. Make sure you read that document well, okay? Because it's binding. Anyway, if you're fine with all the terms they've mentioned in their letter, then you sign that yes, I want to take this loan. And at the end of that process, once you sign, they usually will give you a sponsorship letter, basically some one-page letter, usually saying they would sponsor you to the up to this amount, maybe $40,000. And that sponsorship letter is what you can send to your school, or you can use for visa application processes, whatever it is. You can use that letter as proof that you have enough to fund yourself when you're in school. Usually, if you're going to the US, your school needs that letter for you to get your I-20, which is the form you need to apply for a visa. So all of that we can explain in another video, but note that they will give you some approval letter or sponsorship letter saying they will be sponsoring you up to $40,000 if that's the amount you guys agreed. So that is the end of phase 1. Now let's move to phase 2. So guys, let's now go to phase 2, and I feel like this is the phase that is very confusing to many of you. So phase 2 is the disbursement. Phase 2 is the disbursement phase, and this is where the cash is transferred. This is the real deal, right? So now at the end of phase 1, you have signed the loan agreement, and that ends, and you can go to sleep. But then maybe a couple of months later is when you're now starting the program. So let's say this entire loan thing, you completed it in July or in June, but now you're resuming school in September. That is when the phase 2 kicks in. In September, when you start the program, when you get to school, or right before the program starts, depending on the loan company, maybe the week the program is starting, usually, you will get a notification, either that's from the loan company or that's from your school. They would say, the loan company will actually send you an email or something saying we are disbursing this amount to your school. So at the beginning of each semester, the loan provider will send the cash to your school. So let's use numbers. You guys know the numbers make things easier, right? I hope so. But if you took a loan of $40,000 and you're going for a 2-year program with 2 semesters each, so for the school you have 2 main semesters every year. So that means you have 4 semesters. And what that also means is every semester you would need $10,000. That's usually the case. So at the beginning of each semester, the loan provider will send an email to you saying, hi Doyin, we're sending $10,000 to your school. And then they will send that cash to your school. But the issue is, of that $10,000, maybe what you really need as balance of tuition and fees is $6,000. The remaining $4,000, you wanted to use it for you wanted to use it for living expenses, maybe to pay your rent, your transport costs, all those things, right? So, but the way it works is the loan company will send the $10,000 to the school, the entire $10,000. They would not send $6,000. They will send $10,000. So what happens is the school will do their accounting, whatever, and they will take $6,000. That's the school, and they will reimburse you. Basically, they will refund you actually $4,000. So the school will, you get a notification from, say, financial services from your school, whatever that financial services team is called in your own school. They will send you a notification, or they usually have a portal where you can see how much they got from your loan company, how much they are taking, and how much they want to send to you. And they'll usually ask you for your account number and all those things, or if you want it as a check. So the school will refund you $4,000, and you can use that to pay your rent or whatever you need to pay. That is the process of disbursement, basically. Now, is it possible for the school to send for the loan company to send 6K to the school and 4K to you? Usually they don't do that. They just send the full amount you've requested for that semester. They send it to the school, and then you and the school can work around how you get the balance. Now, the schools have been doing this for years, so this process it's not a big deal. You will get your 4K, so don't be worried. You will get your balance from the school, but the thing is, the school will deduct everything you're owing. Maybe that's tuition fees, maybe tuition and other fees, whatever it is, and you get just the balance. So one more thing is, this process will continue every semester till you graduate. So every semester you go through the entire process again, and that process is the loan company will reach out to you saying, "Hi, Doyin, we're sending your school another $10,000 this second semester," and they'll send it to the school. The school will now email you saying, "Hi, Doyin, you're owing another $6,000 for tuition and fees, and we'll send you the balance $4,000." This process will go on till you graduate, till your final semester. That is the fourth semester in this example that I'm using. So that's exactly how phase 2 works, and this will continue till you graduate. Now, once you graduate, we get into phase 3. So phase 3, guys, is repayment. That is the main that is the phase that everyone is scared of. I did a video recently about how you can repay your loans. So if you're having some anxiety about paying loans, I did that video sharing tips that could potentially help you. So check out that video, okay? It's a recent video, but I'll also link it. I don't even think it's gone up yet, but I'll link it in the description. It should go up before this one. But anyway, guys, phase 3 is repayment. So let's think again about what I've said so far. In phase 1, you sign some loan agreement saying, basically the agreement tells you about the terms of the loan, terms of, this transaction. Now, in phase 2, the loan company basically sends cash to you and your school. I've explained that. Now, in phase 3, you're about to graduate. What you need to think about in phase 3 is, you need to think back at phase 1 when you were signing that loan agreement. In that loan agreement, did they say anything about repayment? Yes, they actually did. They always say something about repayment. Did they say whether you need to start paying while you're still in school, or you need to start paying once you graduate? Usually, for many student loans, you are not required to start paying until you graduate. That's one thing to check in phase 1. Another thing you should have checked in phase 1 is when does interest start to accrue on your loan? This is one question I get a lot, but let me explain it. From day one that they sent the first $10,000 to your school, in our example, we've been using this $10,000 every semester for 4 semesters. From day one that they send that first $10,000 to your school, you begin to accrue interest. This is the case for almost all the options I mentioned on this video. You begin to accrue interest from day one. But do you need to start paying from day one while you're in school? That's usually not the case. You don't have to pay for many loan options. Of course, read your loan agreements, guys. Don't quote me. But for many of the options I've mentioned here, you don't need to start making payments until after you graduate. But will you incur interest from day one, from day one of them disbursing to the school? Yes. You begin to incur interest every day. Of course, we can't go into how interest is computed, but just assume you incur interest from that day. But you likely don't need to pay back until after you graduate. So let's talk now. If you understand those things, you understand when interest accrues or how. You also understand when you need to pay back. Like, do you need to pay back when is the first installment due? Is it right when you graduate, or 6 months after you graduate? Usually, many of these loan companies give a grace period. They say the first installment is not due until maybe 6 months after you graduate. Some say 3 months after you graduate, but you need to check the specific. That's why I said that loan agreement is so important. You need to check what was said in your own loan agreement. So you need to know what the interest rate is and how interest is computed. You need to know when payment is due. Then you need to know if you have any grace period. And by grace period, I mean, if I graduate today, do I need to start paying today, or I need to start paying in 6 months' time? You need to know all that, all those details. At this repayment stage, you also need to know or get a sense for like how much will be due to be paid. Usually, you are not paying the entire $40,000 at once once you graduate. No. You need, in that loan agreement, they must have stated the tenure of that loan, like for how long can you have that loan, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years, some 30 years, and based off of that, they'll calculate how much is due, for the first installment. But the loan company will let you know all that. So let me summarize this last stage. This last stage is repayment, and repayment really depends on what was in the loan agreement. So for the repayment phase, you likely start paying after you graduate, but interest started accruing from the first day they disbursed to you or to your school. But you likely start paying after graduation. That could be the day you graduate, or that could be 6 months after you graduate, or 3 months after you graduate. And the loan provider will usually let you know how much is due for installment one, like how much you need to pay every month going forward. So those are the three main phases in this entire loan application, loan sponsorship thing. Phase 1 is application, phase 2 is disbursement, phase 3 is repayment. So let me know, guys, if this explanation is clear to you, because I feel like I get a lot of questions about how things work. Do you guys understand what I've said? And if you have any other questions, let me know in the comment section. So now let's switch to answering some of your most popular questions about student loans. So let's get right into that. Okay, so welcome back, guys. So let's get into the Q&A. So first question I got, or I'm talking about today, is, can the loan sponsor my kids if I get scholarships? So let me explain what this person is trying to say. This person is saying, I may get, we don't always know how things will work out, but I may get scholarships, but can I use the loans to kind of like sponsor my kids? And when she says sponsor my kids, it's mostly like I'm going, let's use the US for example, or Canada. I'm going to Canada with my 2 kids, and if I get a scholarship, can I use the loan amount? So, if you get a scholarship, the scholarship, let's say you get, at some point during the program, you get full funding. Let's just use that example. Can I use the loans to pay for my kids' living expenses? That's kind of like what this person is asking, or at least that's my understanding. But if I'm getting you wrong, put a comment in the comment section. Let me know what the situation is. Now, that's a great question. The thing is, many of these loan companies want to sponsor your tuition and living expenses. Now, this is where it gets tricky a bit. Your tuition and living expenses, that's what they usually want to sponsor, or mostly your tuition. If at some point you get, remember they're sending this money to your school. If at some point you get scholarships, they likely would not want to sponsor just your kids' living expenses. But if you can make the argument that this is your living expenses, just that your kids, of course, are a part of your family, they may. But usually, if there's no tuition component there, many of these options, especially for international students, they likely would withdraw, they likely would not want to sponsor that, especially if you let them know from the beginning that this money would mostly be towards my kids' living expenses. They likely wouldn't, but never say never. It's worth like talking to them about. But I'll say talk to them after you've gotten your loan approved and say, hey, what if I get a scholarship? How will things work? I don't have the scholarship right now, but if I get a scholarship but I still need some cash to cover my living expenses or my kids' living expenses, how will things work? It's totally worth talking to them about, but I'll say talk to them after they've approved your loan, just to avoid bias, like so they don't factor that into your loan review process. All right, next question. How do I get living expenses from them if they are sending the money to my school? I've explained this already in this video. I explained phase 2 about disbursement. They'll send all the cash to your school will reimburse you. Don't worry about it, guys. You will get your money. You will get the money you need for living expenses. Then another question is, can you pay back the loan at once if you can afford it 6 months after graduation? Now, this is an awesome question because, one of the things in phase 1 you should check when I talked about like the loan agreement, you should also check for repayment details. And by that, I mean like fees and penalties. Are there fees or penalties for early payment? Some loans actually, if you pay early, like just pay everything at once, maybe you win a lottery or something, or things are really working out for you, I'm happy for you, and you just say, oh, I'm going to pay back the $40,000 next week. I'm feeling that they likely would, you'd likely incur some penalty. But that is not the case for many of the options I've mentioned on this video. They encourage you to pay early and at once, but make sure you check what is written in your loan agreement. This is half and half, because some loan companies penalize you for paying early, but many actually say, you know what, pay us the cash. If you have it even before you graduate, pay us. There's no penalty for early payment. And I know Quorum didn't have a penalty for early payment. I know Prodigy, I think they don't have as well. But things may have changed, so check your loan agreement for this one. But usually there's no penalty. If you have the cash, girl, go ahead and pay. Okay, next question. This person is saying, you said the loan is repaid 6 months after graduation. Do you mean the total loan sum, or you mean instrumental payments start 6 months after graduation? Let me clarify that. So this person may be referring to like previous loan videos I have done. Usually many of them give a grace period of 6 months, and that means once you graduate, you don't need to start paying today. If today were your graduation, you can wait 6 months and you would only be due to pay the first loan repayment or the first installment 6 months after you graduate. Many of the options I've mentioned, that's how they work, but you need to check with whatever provider you're going with, whatever loan company or bank you're going with, right? Now, this person is asking what is due in that 6 months. It is the installment. They'll tell you how much you need to pay every month going forward, starting 6 months after you graduate. They'll tell you that it is not the entire $40,000 in the example I've used in this video. That $40,000 you pay over maybe, some people pay over 2 years, over 3 years, over 10 years, over 15 years, whatever. But it's the installments that are due. It's not the entire loan amount. So I hope that clarifies. Another question, please, I want to understand, is there interest? Because from other videos I saw, it says interest starts counting from day one. So does that mean daily interest runs on it? My answer is yes. Usually yes, from day one, because there's opportunity cost of money. They are not dashing you the money. From day one of them sending the money to your school, you begin to incur interest. It's sad. I'll share my story, like my loan story at some point, but like at some point you just realize that a small loan amount could become really big. You know, I mentioned compounding in some of my previous videos, or maybe that video that hasn't gone up, but I mentioned compounding and like paying back student loans and some tips. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it. Definitely watch that video on paying back student loans. Like, compounding is so powerful. From day one that they send, you know, from day one of sending that money to your school, sis, you're already incurring interest. And that's why I share those tips in that video, tips for you to quickly pay back. Because if you do nothing, or if you pay the minimum, you incur interest every day. So the answer to your question is yes, you incur interest from day one. All right, so the next question is, can a 4-year undergraduate program get a loan as an international student? This is one question that I am also concerned about, but the answer is yes. As an undergraduate student, you can get loans. But I think the real question you're trying to ask is, what are your options? Now, in terms of options, you have a lot of options, but the thing is, you have very few options if you are an international student without a co-signer. If you're an international student without a co-signer, you have very few loan options out there for you. But if you're an international undergrad student with a co-signer, there are many options as long as you have a co-signer. And this is why, because for undergrad students, a lot of these loan companies don't really want to like issue loans to you for different reasons. But if you had a co-signer, they would, you know, give you loans basically. But if you don't have a co-signer, I can't even think of any option on top of my head right now. But I'm sure there are options there. It is possible there are options out there. But I'll just say, you from what I know right now, you have very few options. And I really want to throw this one out there, guys. If you got loans as an undergrad student, can you put some information or your story or your journey or some tips in the comment section? This is something I've been researching and I haven't made a lot of progress with. So please, any tips, any ideas, any experiences you guys have as someone that was an international student and was an undergrad student, just put whatever you're willing to share in the comment section. This is something I really want to know more about. So I really appreciate you guys putting something in the comment section so others can benefit. All right, last question is the loan just for masters or for both masters and bachelors? I think this is related. If you're saying bachelors, that's like first degree, which is undergrad. It depends on the loan company. Prodigy mostly sponsors grad school, so you need to be going for a master's, PhD, whatever that is. But there are other options where they fund undergrad students. So this one depends on like what loan company you're going with. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. But if you have any tips, especially if you once got loans as an undergrad student, please put it down there right now so people can learn. But I hope you found today's video helpful. But if you still have any questions about student loans, how to get them, any challenges you're facing, you know what to do. Just drop a comment below. And I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. You know, you have to support your girl. You have to help me help you. You know, win-win. So please click the thumbs up button below right now. And also, please subscribe to my channel, guys. I'm trying to get to 3K subscribers. That would be nice to have that in a couple of months. So please subscribe to my channel and also give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys. I'll see you in my next video.